can say definitively that religions are all bullshit.
Welcome to Brainstorm.
We have the explicit tag for a reason.
This is a base level argument to a higher level morality.
I get paid to science?
To science as much as one can science.
What the hell was my point?
Trigger warning. The Brainstorm podcast will criticize your most cherished beliefs. We attack nonsense in all its forms and discuss difficult subjects. If you peddle pseudoscience, supernatural woo, or religious dogma, then this is not your safe place. This is the home of hardcore skepticism.
Hi.
We seem to be back.
How's it going?
So we're back, and I forgot to write like a intro script for this part. So this is the Shift to Reason Radio portion
Good
of the
job,
show.
Corey.
It's going to suck now.
Yeah, well, I'm still joined by Rene.
Hello.
Lisa.
It's me.
Leo.
Hello there.
And the always amazing Dave.
Huge.
So I guess, I can't remember my spiel, but that's okay. We'll jump right into religious nuttery.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Cornerstone, this might be new to some of you. Scripture says that even our righteous deeds are as filthy rags to God. So even the good things that you do, even things like feeding the hungry and clothing the poor and taking in widows and orphans, as nice as those things are, if not done from the place of obedience to and a relationship with God, are completely worthless and disgusting to God. If you're not daily walking in a place of relationship to God, then the news that we have to bring you is that you're on your way to hell right now.
Anyway, apparently our notes are not. Oh, I know which set of notes you have. You have the first set, and there was 2 revisions after that.
Corey is that good. He works that fucking hard on the show, people.
Now I just
for
look
you.
ridiculous.
Just for you, our 5 listeners. We love you.
All right. So our first story is from the Friendly Atheist blog on Pathos. A preacher who prayed to stop Hurricane Irma thinks he diverted its path with his prayers.
Not the people that were shooting the shotguns?
No, that's a different.
Oh, that was a different Facebook
That's
page.
a different Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Page. Yeah. Also later on, we'll talk about people who put fans in front of the hurricane and thought that would work. But this one is a Florida right-wing preacher, Lance Wallnau, called on God to turn the hurricane away from the coasts and back to the ocean. Then, obviously, everybody knows that Hurricane Irma hit large parts of Florida and did not turn back. But Wallnau made a video on September 11th claiming that his prayers diverted the path of the hurricane. And he said, I quote, "I'm telling you, this hurricane went where the Everglades is instead of where Miami is. It's like boom, prayer moved it." So he continued, it went from a category. Now this is just fun. It went from a category 5 to a 4 to a 3 to a 1 to a 1. He just counted down.
And then it disappeared. Would you look at that?
It's an amazing intervention of God. We have to praise God. So,
even God just can't go boom done. He has to kind of downshift that hurricane.
He only has the dimmer switch. He does not have that
right.
Yeah,
right.
so he just has to dim it slowly.
Or like he's downshifting. He's got to push the clutch in and shift down.
He's got to double clutch that.
Yeah. So I think it seems quite a bit arrogant that this preacher thinks his prayers affected the hurricane when everybody else was doing things too. The fans and the guns, and I'm sure there were lots of other people who were praying things for God to do with this hurricane. But this one is the one that says he worked. So that's yeah.
Was this the Spanish-speaking church that did this shit, or
No, this is a very white dude from the video I saw.
because I saw that Seth Andrews posted like a video on Twitter.
Oh, is that right?
About like, a bunch of church people standing on the shores, like as the hurricane was coming in.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
and then-
No, this is a different.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a different guy. This guy prayed all by himself and thought that his prayer was strong enough.
It was probably that other group. They had like at least 20 people there.
Well,
yeah. It wasn't this guy.
It wasn't this guy. It's pretty arrogant of him to think it was. Anyway, so I guess, yeah, I don't know why God didn't just not make the hurricane, you know, or like turn it off before it hit land. I don't know. I guess maybe there's some divine purpose to it. Or so they say.
Probably.
Probably. So, Lisa, do you want to talk about your religious story?
Yes.
Yes.
I totally read it a long time ago and prepped for it very well. This is the one about the Lagos mega church, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the title of this article is Eat, Pray, Live, the Lagos mega churches building their very own cities. So I'll just read the byline. This is by Ruth McLean with The Guardian. Redemption Camp has 5,000 houses, roads, rubbish collection. Rubbish because they're British. They say rubbish. Anyway, police.
Got it.
So rubbish is like garbage. Just like that's what the fucking British people. It's so weird. I'm not delaying this just because I. Anyway, sorry. Redemption Camp has 5,000 houses, roads, rubbish. I'm just gonna say garbage because
yeah, garbage works.
It just makes more sense.
I'm gonna ad lib here. Redemption Camp, also known as Rubbish Camp in my mind, has 5,000 houses, roads, garbage collection, police, supermarkets, banks, a fun fair, which is like a what do we call that here?
A fun fair?
A fun fair. They mean like a Ferris wheel and shit. What do we call that? We call it exhibition here, but
A fair.
A fair.
Not a fun fair though. What the fuck is
they
that?
just call it a fair.
Fucking British people.
I guess you could put the word fun in front of fair and that's fine.
A post
Theirs are never
office.
fun.
Even a 25 megawatt power plant. In Nigeria, the line between church and city is rapidly vanishing. Okay, so the whole article is all about how this place outside of the city limits of Lagos, the city of Lagos, has these churches that are established. So they're outside the city limits, but they're kind of within some reasonable distance. And over the past decades, these churches, which are incredibly popular Christian churches, established these camps. So they kind of started out as people living there once in a while, you know, because there'd be these big gatherings, everyone come and there'd be a big whatever church convention, and they'd all whatever the fuck they do, pray together, or whatever.
Whatever
like
they
thousands
do
of
at a
people,
church
yeah.
convention.
But big thing, you know, it's kind of a big cult of personality. The leader is called Daddy Go, and his wife is Mama Go, or whatever. Anyways, and I'm serious. And anyways, but now they've actually established basically a city there. They have people with permanent houses. They actually have actual permanent houses. They have a helicopter pad for the rich people who want to fly in.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they have rubbish collection. But and this is not
Fancy ass rubbish collection.
fucking rubbish collection.
Oh, la di da.
But the idea, this is totally not government paid for all. This is the church who pays for it. They pay. They have like their
Okay,
own
geez.
police force. They have their own sanitation. Their own. They have banks there. They established a market there. Yeah, there's people who live there full time. There's lots of people who come in transiently. You got poor people. You got rich people.
Wow.
Yeah, there's you can buy apparently an 80,000 pound house. You can live in a tent. So it's actually basically a city, but it's not. I mean, the government comes and checks that they're following. Not bylaws because they're not within the municipality, but whatever their regulations are. But the government has even sent their own power plant workers there to see how their power plant people do it. They actually have a power plant. So this redemption camp, this particular faction of this particular religion, which has sort of a charismatic leader, actually has a gate you walk through called Heaven's Gate, which I noticed as I if you guys all remember, Heaven's Gate is the cult
Yeah.
from the 90s. They all killed themselves, and when the comet was passing by.
Well, I was just about to ask, do they have Kool-Aid stands? I'm guessing
No,
not.
that's different. That's a different cult, but yeah, no, I hope not. Yeah, so it's a thing. It's in Nigeria. It's a city that's actually established by a church, not by a government, not by a private corporation.
I can't see how this
church.
is going to
It's
go
weird.
wrong.
Oh, geez, hey, yeah.
It's decades old at this point. Like it's their
Okay.
thing. It's really, I think it's honestly, I kind of just interpret it as like a weird testament to human ingenuity and human weirdness. I mean, they have their market. You have to be.
Are you allowed to leave?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Okay,
it's totally,
okay.
it's just a place people choose to move to, and you have to be part of the religion to live there, but you don't have to be part of the religion to have open a shop there. So it's kind of like free markety. They have banks there. You have it's weird, but
It sounds very modern Amish or something.
Right.
Not really, because you have to be Amish to be
But I mean
Amish.
just the whole idea of, because you have Amish communities that are huge, that have just like thousands and thousands of people. Like certain parts of the U.S. just like these giant
Town adjacent type.
Yeah, giant towns. They don't really believe in cities since they're farming people, but they have self-sustaining communities that a lot of the people never have to leave.
I mean, in a place like Nigeria, I mean, the leader of of this whatever camp, they call it Redemption Camp, says, well, if you wait for the government to do it, it'll never get done. So that it may reflect some people wanting to be there, may reflect some frustration with whatever inefficiencies, corruption, whatever within governments, and the church just says, no, fuck all that. We're going to bypass it. We're going to do it ourselves.
Interesting.
You know, as
Very
much as
interesting politically.
we make fun of religion, sometimes they do get shit done.
It's efficient.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the giant churches and shit that exist.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I suppose-
it's a thing. Just saying. It's a thing.
So, I mean, it's not like they have a democratic system with an elected leader, though, or anything like that.
No, they have like a
church
a benevolent dictator, but he doesn't I don't get the. I mean, you have to be part of the church to live there. So in the sense, you got to be.
It's not as culty as some places.
No, I mean, and I know it's not small. It's thousands and thousands of people. It's not like a little enclave. It's big.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I totally read it like way back when you first posted the notes, whenever the fuck that was.
First edition.
The first edition
I read it.
was on
I read it
Sunday
then.
night?
I read it on Sunday night. I immediately got the notes. I was like, "Fuck! I'm reading this right now." And then I did, because I'm really good at this podcast.
Yeah.
You sound super convincing.
I am convincing because I'm amazing. I'm huge. It's going to be terrific. This was a terrific article.
You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. It's amazing. Best article.
All right.
Best reading of an article ever.
Best.
Summary. I rock.
All right.
Vote Trump.
Let's.
Fucking trying here.
So, anybody got anything to ask about this or think about this? No? Okay.
No.
Then we're going to go to the Woo Report.
Okay, I'm off the hook.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, then your science really sucks.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Well, so I got a Pathos blog again from the Tippling Philosopher. And it's titled Studies that say global warming doesn't exist. Yeah, just
saying that wrong.
Studies that say global warming doesn't exist have been shown to have many flaws. And essentially what it boils down to is there is a 97% consensus among climate change papers. I always feel the need to say this. It is not a survey of scientists. They did not take a survey and say, yes, I believe in climate change. So it is a consensus of research papers that stated a position on climate change. So, and 97% of those papers endorse the anthropogenic model. There were 2% in opposition to that and 1% that were kind of unsure. A recent study that looked at those particular studies that were against the 2%, in opposition to the anthropogenic model of climate change. This study took a look at some of those and determined that there was some serious issues with them. Like they didn't have a good analytical setup, or they were founded on questionable or false assumptions. I'll just read a bit from the article here. Where does he have it here? One particularly, this is Jeremiah Traeger wrote this article, a friend of the show. One particularly egregious example was a poor fit by use of Fourier analysis. Any physics student and many other science students know that literally any finite function can be fit to a sum of periodic functions known as a Fourier series.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. Resident physicist.
It basically means you can write an equation as a bunch of other things added up. You can approximate an equation as, in fact, the equation is exactly equal to the infinite sum, but you can approximate it by a finite sum of other stuff that's simpler to add up.
So, Humulum, this one particular claim that they were paper was claimed that they were able to reduce the changes in Earth's temperature to 3 cyclical natural timescales using this type of series fitting. Jeremiah goes on to say, it is unsurprising that they were able to get a fit, since Fourier series are designed to fit any function.
Yes. It's also it would be very surprising if nobody had done this before.
Right. So there's a few of these types of errors, including like astronomical cycles that supposedly were a significant portion of the climate change in one of the studies. And like there's a number of these different, fucked up ways of doing it that apparently are not the way to do it. And that's why these 2% of studies ended up with a disagreement against the consensus. I'll definitely share the link here. There's lots of reading to it.
Lots of reading, lots of big words.
All the big words.
Ones you can read but can't say out loud.
Yeah, that's right. They have multiple syllables and different ways of saying them. So I'll leave that to the reader. Basically, global warming is a thing. And even the people that the papers that said that it might not be a thing were making giant mistakes.
They were fucked up.
Yep.
The only thing I find dubious about this, like I read, I didn't look into great detail. This has been touted all over the media this week and last week. Is the article? They generally said 97% of papers support climate change. 3% that don't are wrong. All 3%, or is it 2.9%? It seems unlikely to me that every single paper with any, or I don't know, maybe, but was it every single paper?
Well, actually, because it's 97.1% of papers support climate change.
Okay.
So then it's 2.9 left, right?
Yeah.
And 0.8 of those were unsure.
Okay.
And then 2.1 were on the opposing climate change.
Right. So the when you read a headline that says those other 3%, totally wrong, very misleading, right?
Well, I would disagree with that, because let's say if you take something like smoking, which we now know causes cancer, any paper that says that it doesn't really matter how, in what way it's wrong. It's still wrong. So you could make a blanket statement that all of the research that shows that smoking does not cause cancer are all wrong.
But it would be much more accurate to say that.
And then we can pinpoint like some of the details why they're wrong and what, but anybody who makes that their claim is automatically wrong.
But what you're saying is not that you can demonstrate that it's wrong, but that you can demonstrate that it's uncertain. But it would be a lot more fair and a lot more scientific and a lot more accurate to say this paper shows that smoking may not cause cancer, but the results are uncertain. That would be a lot. It's not scientific to say it's wrong. In fact, scientists don't really talk that way.
Well, I mean, yeah, if that's the objection of not calling anything wrong or right, then I mean, I guess none of them are wrong and none of them are right. But
one has a certain amount of evidence in favor of the conclusion, and one has a certain
That is how scientists talk. Sorry that it's boring and not a good headline.
No, it's fair.
Headlines of academic articles are like 4 lines long and full of acronyms. Like but it's thing
Doesn't
is you
make
have
for
to
good
your language,
clickbait, though.
But your language has to be precise. It's science. Right? That's how it goes.
It's not clickbaity enough. You got to say all of these people who said the wrong thing were wrong.
And engage in fellatio. No. Sorry.
That's right.
I'm bringing that up a lot today.
So, and actually, they only looked at 38 of the 2.1%. That would have been of about 11,000 different studies. So that leaves about 220 papers that were anti-climate change or anti-anthropogenic global warming. So there's 220 of those. They studied 38 in this attempt to figure out what was going on.
Like, were they arguing that they just had a kind of a statistically significant sample, just like
they
chose
kind
a
of
subsample that was relevant? And
a sample size of the.
Sorry, did they choose the ones that were most cited, for example? Like, did they choose because you know what I mean, that's how you know which papers are the best, right? Like if out of those 200 and odd papers, you know, there's 38 that are often cited, that would be the ones to go with. If you go with the ones that are never cited and no one's ever heard of, then what's the point of doing your study? I don't know. It would be interesting to know how they chose their papers. Anyways, sorry, that's a subtlety.
It is a subtlety, but it's interesting.
But it's crucial.
A lot of
papers, a lot of academic papers are actually absolutely just pivot on subtleties like that, like on selection functions. Where do you start from? Many.
Is it a random sample? Like, did you just throw them all in a hat?
Like, I literally devoted like 3-4 years of my PhD to countering an earlier study people had made where, like, I argued basically the galaxies they selected for their study were biased, which is why their results were biased. And it's a basic. It's basic, but it's not sexy, and it's something that's easy to overlook.
Right, yeah.
Selection bias. Anyway.
Selection bias. That's right. They might have picked by accident or
you don't have to sound so surprised that I know some things. Look, Lisa, sometimes you might actually say something that might actually not be totally retarded.
Or rather, I think the way that it should be interpreted is that you brought something to my attention that I had not even thought of, and that is where that I should have thought of.
No. Anyways, whatever. It's something, like I said, that I spent like 3 years of my life thinking about, which is why I bring it up.
Right? No, shit. I should have caught that.
Anyways. That's the thing. You got to read. Like, you got to read the paper. You got to find the actual paper and read. Like, that's the only way these things go.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Oh, good for you. I'm just saying.
Although, unless we just kill more time, I might not get to this before.
I could have actually read this shit before the show too. Like, I'm putting it all on you, but I'm being kind of a dick about it because, like, honestly, I could have.
The sample was drawn based on expert opinion according to the criterion of being contrarian papers with high public visibility, and with results that are not in agreement with the mainstream view. The sample was highly selective and meant for replication and the identification of errors rather than being a representative statistical sample reflecting the volume of scientific literature.
That sounds subjective to me. Sorry.
One objection to the selection of the cases here may be that they introduce an asymmetry through imperfect sampling. Interesting. So this may not be a true sample of the negative study.
It's a thing. It's a study. That's why, like, every scientific paper, every paper ends with further research is required to blah 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 blah. You know, it's just how it goes. Like it's just a thing. I mean, you had to make a line somewhere, but and it's good that they identified the limits of what they've done. But yeah, the clickbaity articles that say 3% are just obviously wrong. This study proves that. Well, no, it looked at a subsample, and they're not entirely sure that it was a fair subsample. I mean, you know, like all these subtleties have to come out.
Yeah, that's right. I think
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just
to be
saying
fair
it's a thing.
to Jeremiah, his just said they were shown to have many flaws. He did not say that this proved all of them wrong. Where
No.
Some articles did say that.
Exactly. No, sorry. You can't hold him responsible for everything written on the internet about his study. That's unfair, to say the least.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/brainstorm podcast gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
We are given one life, full of billions of small and large decisions. To be somebody, to change, to be kind, to give hope, to become a better person, and to leave a lasting impact on this planet. It is a decision to be made every single day while your heart is still beating. We've made our decision. Absence of Clothing, atheist and science-based apparel and merchandise, donating 50% of our profits to charity. Look good and feel good, without God. Check us out at absenceofclothing.com and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest for discount codes and other sweet swag.
Use the code BRAINSTORM at absenceofclothing.com and get 10% off. The Hardcore Skeptic Examines is a bi-monthly documentary-style podcast that includes interviews, research, and commentary from your host, Cory Johnston. That's me. As the host of the Brainstorm podcast, I've spent the last 3+ years trying to spread critical thinking and skepticism while having fun. This project is intended to look at some of those same topics covered by Brainstorm, but a bit deeper. With the long intervals between episodes and the long format, I'm hoping to provide good information that educates as well as entertains. Check out my Patreon for more details at www.patreon.com/hardcoreskeptic or follow my Twitter at hardcoreskeptic.
Hey y'all, this is Tucker from the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. And I might live in a beer can, but I ain't no inbred redneck. And if you listen to my podcast, I'm gonna learn you something. And no, I ain't talking about how to marry your cousin and not have kids with 16 fingers and stuff like that. I mean, I actually talk about real stuff and teach people where the Bible stole its stories from. So y'all give me a listen, would you? Thank you.
All right, Lisa, it's your turn.
Okay, is this the one about the keto stuff?
This is the one about the keto stuff.
Okay, I actually kind of like this article, and I didn't just finish reading it while you were talking about yours.
No, eh?
No, of course not. Okay, this is on a website called sciencebasedmedicine.org. It's called Ketogenic Diet Does Not, quote, beat chemo for almost all cancers, end quote, by David Gorski, who is an oncological surgeon. He's a surgeon who cuts out tumors. Yep. Now, this article is from June 23rd, 2014. So it's a bit older, but it's actually really interesting. So he basically is talking about an article written by Dr. Thomas Seyfried entitled Ketogenic Diet Beats Chemo for Almost All Cancers. So this Dr. Seyfried is a professor of biology at Boston College. So really important. So doctor, PhD, not real doctor. Okay, fake doctor like me, and of biology, not of cancer, not a physician, not an oncologist, not a clinician, a biologist.
Okay,
just important to me. Maybe it's not important to you. Okay, so basically, Gorski starts this article trying to figure out how legitimate is this guy? Like, because he points out that sometimes things are like homeopathy, clearly stupid. Reiki, clearly retarded. Okay, but he doesn't use these words, it's me. But is Seyfried's article, is he crazy? Is he legitimate? So he actually is a professor of biology at a real institution, but then he's associated with all sorts of kind of dubious people, such as apparently, quote, uber quack Dr. Mercola, who has promoted anti-vaccine views, breast cancer, pseudoscience, and
all the woo.
Lots and lots of woo. Twice a day coffee enemas. That doesn't sound so bad. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so bad. Also, Seyfried is associated with the American College for Advancement in Medicine, which might sound impressive in the name, but it is well known as a serious quackery organization. Lots of information on chelation therapy, including a program to certifying chelation therapy on their website. Chelation, whatever. I'm not saying it right, but anyways, blah, blah, blah. He's associated with all sorts of questionable people. So he starts with that. But this notion of... So I don't know if everyone knows what a ketogenic diet is. Maybe explain what that is. So a ketogenic diet is a low carbohydrate, high protein, high fat diet. So a lot of people are using it lately for weight loss, and it seems to be effective for some people. Yep. There is a lot of kind of question. There's a huge debate in the nutrition science community of whether it's basically calorie deficiency versus whether being overweight is a question of having too many calories exclusively, which is kind of what we've always been taught, versus if it actually matters what kind of calories you take. If you eat 2,000 calories a day and it's mostly carbs, are you actually more likely to be fat than if you eat 2,000 calories a day and it's mostly protein and fat? And that's an argument that people who advocate for the keto diet say. Anyways, okay, so now we know what the keto diet is. Basically, Dr. Seyfried thinks he's a genius because he advocates...
That's not a good sign.
Well, no, okay, but he seems to have some sort of... David and Goliath complex, because he advocates that cancer is a metabolic disease, whereas he says the establishment keeps saying that it's a genetic disease. The writer of this article points out, actually, the research has moved towards a more nuanced answer to that. Cancer definitely does have a genetic component, but more and more researchers are acknowledging that there is also a metabolic component, meaning cancer cells need nutrients in order to grow, and those nutrients are actually relevant to cancer's growth. In addition to genetics and the metabolic component, cancers are also, and it is well established, susceptible to the environment they're in. So, yeah. So
okay.
So there's a whole bunch of it's
multifaceted.
Yeah, Seyfried thinks it's like, no, we have to nature versus nurture, like sort of thing, like, or no, it's metabolic or it's genetic, not one or the other, and the whole whatever. Everyone's against me. Everyone thinks it's genetic and it's actually metabolic, but no, like, anyway. So he goes and talks about that for a bit, which is interesting. Okay. But Dr. Seyfried does have a point in that cancer does uptake glucose more readily than other types of cells. In fact, we exploit this fact when we do something called positron emission tomotherapy, PET scans. So we inject patients with basically glucose mixed with a radionuclide, so that it's like a radioactive soup of sugar, and we put that in the patient. And it's well known that cancer cells uptake that material more readily than regular cells. And so when we look at them on a gamma camera, they glow.
Nice.
So we actually watch where patients glow, and so we can tell exactly where the tumor is. So we use this all the time. This is a standard of care in cancer. So it is well known that it is actually true that cancer cells uptake glucose. So the idea is that I'm really glossing over a lot of biology here, which is not really my thing. But the idea is basically that cancer cells, in order to grow, need glucose. So if you cut off the carbs and you're mostly feeding yourself protein and fat, your cancer cells will not have as much energy to grow. And neither
will you.
It will inhibit. Well, the thing is, if you're fighting cancer, that's the whole balance, right? Like, I mean, chemotherapy is also really shitty for you, and so is radiation. These things are bad for you, but the idea is that they're either worse for cancer, right? Like for example, cancer cells are more radiosensitive than regular cells. So even though radiation is bad, it's even worse for cancer cells, and we concentrated on the cancer cells. So hopefully that that balance is reached. And same thing with chemo. We try to target things as much as possible, and I mean, give as much chemo as you can without, killing people and balancing the toxicity of a chemotherapy treatment. So the problem is that there's actually, it's actually not even necessarily that keto diets are bad for cancer patients. But the problem is actually that there's very little evidence. So Dr. Seyfried points to a few studies. There's one in mice that shows that when they kind of inject a certain kind of tumor under the mouse's skin and make it grow, that they like to do this to test mouse models. They found a reduction in or an increase in survival time when they put the mice on ketogenic diets.
Okay.
So great, except that's in mice, and you can't really say, therefore all humans who have cancer should stop, should go on a ketogenic diet. And then there's been like a few studies in people, mostly people, I think exclusively people with brain cancers, different kinds of brain cancers. So you're looking at people who are already pretty fucked, honestly, like people with really bad disease who are likely to not survive very well from that. Yeah, so there's been a few like very small, like I'm talking like 1, 2, 3, 4 people studies looking at what happens when they put people on a reduced calorie and keto diet. So like they're having like less than 1,000 calories a day, and it's all protein or mostly protein, in fact. So they're putting these people on these diets. However, all of these kind of what do they call it? Case studies, I guess. They also put these patients on traditional chemotherapy and radiation and surgery. So they did the traditional treatment, and they also tried keto. Right. And they thought, and they kind of just found it. They found it works sometimes and sometimes not other, or they found an effect sometimes and not others. But it's pretty hard to say with a statistical sample of 2. So they really didn't find anything statistical. So so the long and short of it is there's no evidence, or there's very limited evidence that keto does very much. Apparently there is evidence, and I was talking to one of our oncologists today, that keto helps with seizures in children.
Interesting.
Apparently that's actually validated, and it's true, although it's not well understood what the mechanism for that is, but apparently it is true. The long and short of it is what's dangerous about saying that keto is going to help cancer patients is that the argument is that keto is better than chemotherapy, implying that patients should not get chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, like the traditional treatments, and they should just go on keto and that'll be just as good. Like very, very, very likely to be untrue. So I guess the long and short of it is, I actually don't personally think it's bad to go on a keto diet. If you had cancer and you were worried, and I've had friends who had cancer and they went on diets, trying to be more healthy. And I think it just made them feel better. It made them feel more in control, but they got the validated treatment as well. So I think it's fine I don't think it's bad to try a keto diet. I don't know if I'd go extreme and not eat enough calories, but I don't know that's bad as long as you're also doing the conventional treatment. So I think that's basically the conclusion that he comes to. So if you have cancer or know somebody with cancer, want to try keto, it makes you feel better, do it. I don't think it can hurt, but please don't not get the chemo and the radiation.
Definitely still get the treatment.
Get the treatment that works, and no ethics board is going to approve it. And then there actually are several clinical trials in the works looking at the effect of keto on say the efficacy of getting radiation and that sort of thing, which is great. But nobody's going to say, just don't get the thing that works in favor of this thing that might have some subtle effect. I don't think the effect will be huge, but it might have something. And honestly, in cancer care, we will change practice if we see a 2% increase in say in 2-year survival or anything like that. So if it helps, cool. But I don't even think it'd be 2%. I'd be surprised. It'd be cool if it was, but I don't think it's bad. Anyway,
it's not a negative anyway.
Just please get the treatment.
Get the normal treatment,
and don't break the bank. Right? Don't do anything that's. If somebody's asking $30,000 to do some weird quackery treatment for your cancer, if it's not chemo and radiation from an actual doctor, please no.
Fair enough.
Okay, I talked a lot. But that's it.
No, that was awesome.
It's actually a really interesting article.
That's a great in-depth look at that. Actually. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. totally read it like a long time ago.
Yeah, not at the last minute or anything.
No, I wouldn't do that. That'd be bad.
Okay, let's do a what the fuck.
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking. How did you do fucking fucks? Fuck!
Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
I still love that.
I'll say is kind of what the fuck. Anyway, with the release of It hit the theaters, which I went and saw, and it's actually pretty damn good.
Is it?
It's actually pretty damn good.
Nice.
Bill Skarsgård.
Maybe we could do the overtime, like the after show on that. I saw it as well.
Is that right?
Bill Skarsgård, creepy as fuck. Anyway, so of course, because the main character is Pennywise the Clown, it's bringing up people scared of clowns.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And so apparently there's a group in Thunder Bay. The Thunder Bay Clown Club decided to put on a protest. Although they said it's not really a protest per se. It's more of a informational gathering. They were handing out pamphlets and in full clown costume, trying to show that clowns aren't evil child-eating interdimensional beings. That they're people too, and that they're not scary, and
aren't they?
I don't buy it.
But that's the thing is, like, because I just read the article and there wasn't a whole lot there, I started going, okay, I'm going to start looking, and especially with It coming out.
Turns out most clowns are interdimensional child-eating monsters.
I started
Seven and spaced.
I started looking into other things, and why are clowns so scary? And like, I guess they give it a term, which isn't an official term. It's not in I can't think of the handbooks, the official DSM, or there's another one, whatever that one is. But they call it chorophobia, which is the fear of clowns. And I started looking into, and I watched a couple of YouTube videos and did some reading, and where it kind of came a little bit more prevalent after It came out in like 1986 when the book came out.
Right.
But there's other reasons why people are kind of afraid of clowns.
John Wayne Gacy.
That was one of the key ones. John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer, because of his Pogo the Clown.
Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing they were talking about was the uncanny valley, about what clowns are. Because it's that whole idea of the reason why things that are close to being human but not quite human, that's what creeps us out. Whether it's clowns, because they're kind of human but with exaggerated, the big feet and the big hair and everything. It's an exaggerated human form, so it's close to being human but not quite human, so it kind of puts us off. Like certain dolls kind of give you that weird feeling, or like robots that are
VR or
things like that,
animation,
things that are getting really close, but
they're uncanny.
Well, hence the snappy title. But that's the thing, is like there are people creepy. I mean, think about it. What are clowns? They're loud and obnoxious, and honk honk, and they throw shit at you, and 16 of them pour out of a small car, and
they're weird.
They're weird, and and I was just thinking about this. Like, there's another idea I came up with at reading. I don't know. There's probably someone smarter actually wrote this, but the other idea I had was part of what makes clowns kind of creepy, and why things like It or Insane Clown Posse or any of those things kind of work, is that it's that subjugation of what is supposed to be innocent. Like, clowns are supposed to be innocent and children parties and whatnot.
Right.
But you twist them into something, Insane Clown Posse does, all the clowns are, psychopathic killer clowns, or It is eating interdimensional being, or, killer clowns from space or whatever. It's like that, changing what is innocent into what isn't innocent.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of other reasons why clowns are creepy. Like, one of the other things they brought up in some of the stuff I read was that clowns are, because of the paint, the face paint, it's not quite a mask, but it's almost a mask. And clowns are always mischievous, and you never know what they're going to do. And, it just puts people off. I just think they're creepy. I'm not really scared of them.
Yeah, my son actually is. He really, really dislikes clowns. Like he's never run away. Like
he doesn't have the full on clownphobia.
Yeah, but he definitely does not like them.
I want to know the other side. I want to know who's really fucking into clowns. Who's like, fuck, that's amazing. That's fucking hilarious.
Are there people like that?
Yeah, there's bound to be. I mean,
other than the clowns themselves.
Right. There's, there's so many fucking fetishes out there. There's bound to be someone with a clown fetish.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people who genuinely, like in a non-sexual way,
innocent.
just innocent way, just like, oh, the flower squirted me in the face. Fuck, that's hilarious.
Well, those are the same people.
I want.
They're probably the ones that get excited for carnivals. Oh my god, I can't. I can't. Yeah, I was thinking a little bit more like Barnum and Bailey circus kind of carnivals,
right, yeah.
but
like it's just. I don't know who finds clowns to be good, clean fun. That's my question.
Yeah,
I don't. After the,
who?
I don't think anybody can at this point in
I'm not
in
really
pop
scared of them,
culture,
but I just
can
find
they?
that I'm like, this is lame. Like
I said to Cory at supper, when I was reading this, all I can think of is Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown from Metalopolis. I love cocaine.
I seem to remember liking clowns at birthday parties as a kid, like thinking that was cool. Like as like a really little, I was uncool. Never mind. Fuck.
I don't remember ever liking clowns.
Fucking balloon animals, fucking amazing.
Well, balloon animals are cool,
but you don't have to. You don't have to be a clown to be able to do the balloon animals.
Well, my thoughts on clowns have always been, since I was a pretty young kid, just. Like, for fuck's sakes, you're an adult. That's kind of.
At 4 years old, you're like, fuck, man, grow up.
Well, maybe not quite 4, but as language developed, maybe,
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Now I got a different clown in my head. I got Homie Don't Play That from In Living Color.
Nice.
Yeah. Homie Don't Play That. Whack.
Yeah, shit. Grown humans dressing up in clown costumes.
Whatever. Grown humans dress up as teddy bears and as fucking bronies and fucking cosplay.
Whatever your kink is, that's cool.
Whatever. I don't care. I just why, but it's interesting. You're right. I think that because they're creepy because they're uncanny and they're creepy because they're a weird like they're supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to be like. They're a weird twist on innocence. Yeah.
Oh, it was a thought that came to my mind was because that's just it. Like even the horror movie Annabelle. Like I've always found like old porcelain dolls kind of creepy. But
they're fucking creepy.
And like I'm sitting there going, why is that? I'm like probably because I've read a lot of really fucked up books. And it's always those supposedly innocent dolls with the cracks in the face and then the eyes glow and something weird fucking happens, right? Like it's not like.
I think there's a little bit to all of that. Like pop culture really plays into a lot of the things we think, right? Like,
and I think that's what they were kind of protesting against. Like, I mean, after Jaws came out, there was people that absolutely fucking refused to have a bath.
Yeah.
Because of Jaws. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a giant 30-foot great white in your bathtub. But it was, people had, like, it scarred them in such a way.
Yeah, I think if something, like take the schoolgirl uniform is like, it's so porny now. Like, I know people who are like, I'd never send my kid to a school where they had to wear that because, like, they'd be so sexualized having to wear, like, knee socks and a plaid skirt, right?
Like, like, that's just it. It's that inversion of what was supposed to be innocent and it's become something else.
Yeah.
Like the sexy nun.
Wow.
Is that a thing? I don't know.
That's a thing.
There's a sexy anything come Halloween. Right. It doesn't matter. Sexy banana, sexy, hot dog bun, like.
Yeah, that's right.
Fuck, I want that costume.
Just
sexy banana.
No, I want the hot dog bun. That's way better.
You could do like a phallic banana or something. That'd be
a phallic banana.
Like all bananas?
Like all bananas?
Yeah, no, but you could make them extra phallic. Yeah.
I'm sure you could.
Probably.
Where's Angela when you need her?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, yes, because it is now become Pennywise has now become kind of ingrained in our pop culture. Like that's why they blame it on it. Although it was there before that. Like Punch and Judy, like the one clown that would beat the shit out of the other one. Like that's been around for 100 and some years. So it's always been kind of there. But this book, because it was so big, and the miniseries in 90 with Tim Curry as Pennywise, has ingrained it in the pop culture.
Yeah. No, fair enough. No.
Lesson, fuck clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching on Facebook, and one of the DJs from the local radio station, he hates clowns, and they took him to it, and he's like, okay, I survived it, but fuck clowns.
Nice.
It's hilarious.
Angela says she's right here in the chat room.
We love you so much. Mostly me.
Let's do politics now. We don't have a bumper for this, so you'll just have to wing it.
Huge.
You got no lead in.
Yeah.
All right, so I haven't been on the podcast for a couple of weeks now, but I haven't been on since the resignation of our great leader.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what this shit popped back into the mainstream. But yeah, I decided to do a short little recap of the GTH thing, and then just talk about some of the current
shenanigans.
Angela says she loves you too.
I wish you could see my face right now, Angela. Sorry, politics?
Okay,
what?
Politics?
Yeah. But yeah, so quick recap from like 2012, 2013, that the Regina bypass was being built, and then they were trying to buy some land next to the global transportation hub, which was, and there were two plots that were originally very strategic and were appraised at $15,000 to $20,000 an acre. And the GTH decided to buy that land at that price, but then somebody bought it out from under them just as they were about to buy it. It was the company 139 Land Corporation, and that was just like a couple of months after that. And soon in November of that year, so like half a year later, the government, or the GTH, they offered 139 Land Corporation $78,000 an acre, so which is like over 3 times the original appraisal amount. Okay. And that deal was killed off due to the fact that they didn't know who owned that company and suspicion of conflict of interest.
Right.
Soon after that, they found out that the company was owned by a guy who had business relations with Bill Boyd, who was the guy in charge, the minister in charge of the GTH. And then stuff started smelling pretty fishy. But everybody claims there was no fraud. That Boyd did not tip off his kind of acquaintance / friend to buy that land just before the government was about to buy it, and then jack the price. But then 139 Land Corporation sold that land to an Anthony Marquardt and made $6 million on that deal. Whew. So that was just for having either just fortunately bought the land at the exact right time to flip it. And so the land was reappraised in 2013 in November, and it was appraised at $30,000 to $35,000. So that was about close to double what it had been appraised originally a year before.
Right.
And so there was a new attempt at buying the land. The Ministry of Highways was planning on buying the land for that new appraised price of $30,000 to $35,000. But meanwhile, Bill Boyd, the minister in charge of the GTH, was secretly buying the land for $103,000 an acre.
Jeez.
like 3 times the amount that this other government agency was trying to buy the land for, and that deal went through secretly. Why? And so then it definitely smelled of just fraud.
Wow.
Because there's 2 different branches of the government trying to buy the same land, but one of them is offering like 3 times the amount secretly.
Jeez.
So at that point, it's 3 times the amount that it was appraised at that time, and roughly 8 times that it had been appraised just like a year and a half earlier.
Right.
It was the GTH itself that ended up buying it, yeah?
Yeah, the GTH itself ended up buying it, but not even with their own money. They funneled money through Sask Energy, I believe.
Okay.
Or is it Sask Power? One of the 2.
Wow, they're all the same shit.
But they're technically different.
They're not. I'm just joking.
But I think it was Sask Energy, but I'm not sure. But one of the 2, they funneled the money through them, claiming that they would occupy part of the space so they could pay for the land.
For all of the land.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the same government pocket, but they had to somehow divert the budget so that they could make that. And so now and I put a little joke in, let's see if it works. The land deal was signed on Christmas Eve, just like Jesus wanted it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
If only you hadn't said it was a joke first.
I'm sure somebody's laughing.
Somebody's laughing.
But yeah, so now
Angela's laughing because she's nice.
The new thing resurfaced with the kind of more recent development of the construction of a mall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and this is something fairly recent, but it's been going on for a while. But it's a Brightview Mall company.
Okay.
But apparently these are the guys that were involved in that scandal with the fake jobs for Chinese laborers, and then abusing the Saskatchewan immigrant worker program or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were lying to people in China so that they would come here like that, thinking that they had a job. But yeah, so that's these guys who owned that mall were involved in that. But yeah, so now Brad Wall justifies the buying of the land for $103,000 an acre because the mall is apparently paying the government, for a very small portion of it that they're buying for their mall, they're paying $180,000 per acre.
How many acres is the mall going to use?
I could not easily find that.
It's not going to be much.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be much. But I also didn't look very hard. But this is just a very stupid justification for it, because if you had just initially bought it and not tipped off your friend from this,
the price would have been like 8 times less.
Yeah, like $15,000 to $20,000 an acre, and you would have spent just maybe like $2-3 million instead of $21 million on the land.
That's insane.
And then, yeah.
Did I not also read an article this week that the GTH hasn't made any money in a long time, and they haven't paid their debts in like 2 years?
Yeah, they haven't made
any payments.
Any kind of payments in 2 years.
Because they're not generating enough revenue, they say. There was a hearing this week, and they brought this. It was just like,
yeah, they're not doing so great.
Damn, I wish I could just not pay my bills in 2 years and just be like, fine.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez. So, essentially, our government lied and cheated to get it.
Well, and that's the thing. So, hopefully, a lot of people are speculating that this is one of the reasons why Brad Wall kind of stepped down. Shit was starting to hit the fan a bit. I don't want to speculate on who did what, where, and when necessarily.
Right.
Some of this stuff just stinks of corruption.
Fuck, I'll go on and say it. Hello, Grant Divine 2.0.
Nice.
But the one person that is definitely, I would very surprised if did not commit a lot of like huge corruption is like Bill Boyd. That guy was way too deep in there to not have it acted inappropriately. As to the other members of the government, some of them didn't even most of them didn't even know that the secret negotiations were happening.
Right.
Like while they were negotiating the way higher price. So, but yeah, that is definitely something that hopefully gets investigated. And
there was another dude who was minister or something, Lori, somebody or other. They were trying to get him to appear before the investigative panel or whatever this week, and he wouldn't show. And he's no longer in the government, but he was involved.
Pusher?
That's the one. Yeah. Lori Pusher.
Well, it was Pusher and Boyd who secretly negotiated the deal, or Boyd used Pusher to kind of facilitate some of the deal. But
that guy stinks too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sounds like another smelly guy.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
They got stank and not the good kind.
So for our non-Saskatchewan listeners, these are all government officials who have colluded in some way or another. It seems that they have colluded in some way or another in order to cheat on the sale of this land.
Yeah. Maybe I should just in a couple of sentences say exactly what this is kind of suggesting. It seems that the minister in charge of buying the land tipped off his buddy to then quickly buy it before the government could get around to it, and then let his buddy make money and then sell it to a different buddy.
Oh, jeez.
Who then again made money again. That's why it goes from original price to 3 times the price, and then from that 3 times the price to 8 times the original price. But that's what it looks like, and this, government officials using their kind of confidential knowledge of the future plans of the government to enrich their buddies. That's what it looks like. I'm not accusing anybody, but
and presumably for their own enrichment as well, because you don't do that without getting a kickback yourself. Come on, what would motivate you?
It's either to make money directly or kind of I scratch your back, you scratch my back.
So I don't have any friends I like that much.
Yeah. But down the road,
fuck you, Angela.
Down the road, where they know that they're going to return the favor. But yeah,
we better do our closing here. We have no listener feedback. I got a message from a friend in Egypt who wanted to know what's going on in the U.S. and Canada regarding white privilege and racism. So I helped somebody directed some links to him. We have no new patrons, although Gumby did some stuff with his patronage and now it's active again, I guess. So thanks, Gumby.
You sick bastard.
You sick bastard.
Literally, he's sick.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I meant.
Remember that being a patron gets you access to tons of extra content that nobody else gets, including exclusive content sometimes every month for $5 and up patrons. Our Patreon page is patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. We have no new iTunes reviews. If you want to give us a rating and write a review, it really helps the show out, and we'll read your review on the air. You can do that when you share the episodes and tell your friends. Wendy Marsman from the Women Beyond Belief podcast gave us 5 stars on Facebook, though. So thank you, Wendy. Anybody have stuff to plug?
No, I'm boring.
Dave?
No.
Okay. I have my interview with Alex Jules came out about 9 or 10 days ago on the Hardcore Skeptic Examines, and this morning the first episode of Skeptic Voices came out with my interview with Trav Mamone. Let's cue that outro music.
I don't know. Okay.
So you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Will, Lisa, Rob, Aaron, Nathan, Daryl, Stephanie, Positively Skeptical, Michael, Lachlan, Magnus, and Alden. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest for tonight, Matt Delahunty. Links to all his stuff will be available in the show notes on thebrainstormpodcast.com or on brainstormblog.net. You can join us live every second week when we broadcast live on Spreaker. You can find us at Spreaker.com/user/brainstorm-podcast. Our next guest is Brother Brewer of the Skeptics Brew Pub. You might remember that he interviewed us as a crew a few months ago. And thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Alex Capper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for the intro and some of our ads. And thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff over at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. I think that's everything, so give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a favorite on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.